Good morning. Can you just confirm that you can hear me? A nod is fine. Yes, that is perfect. Thank you. Well, good
Can you
morning,
hear me?
everyone. Sorry, is everyone else who is supposed to be muted? Yeah. Good morning, everyone, and welcome to today's exciting book launch. We are absolutely delighted to have you join us for what promises to be an inspiring and engaging session. My name is Koye, and I'm honored to be your host for today. Before we dive into the main event, I was thinking it would be fun to start with a little icebreaker. So I'm going to ask you to please pick up your phone or your computer and type the name of the city that you're joining us from in the chat box. So whether you're tuning in from Lagos, from I think I see London and Nairobi, anywhere else in the world, we'd love to see the diversity of our audience today. Please don't be shy. I'll shut up for a moment, give you a chance to actually type, and let's see where people are joining from. Lagos, thank you very much. London, yes, I did suspect there was Lagos and London on there. Calgary, nice. Nasarawa State, now that is lovely. Hi, Jerry from Nasarawa. I'll take a few more seconds, see where everyone else is. Don't be shy. Abuja, Mide, Toronto, or Toronto, the way they like to say it. Um, no, but that's brilliant. It looks like we've got a pretty diverse bunch. Thank you all for joining. I know it's pretty early for some of the people in Canada. So thank you for waking up really early to join us. Before we get started, let's quickly go over a few housekeeping notes to make sure that we have a seamless experience. I've just got three of them. The first one is questions. We'd really love to hear from you, but we do have a large group joining us. So what we've done is mute everyone except people that need to speak to keep things smooth and distraction free. So what I'll ask you to do is, if you've got thoughts, questions, comments, or concerns at any time, feel free to type them in the chat box. If you are shy and you don't want to send your questions to the entire group, feel free to send them directly to me. And as we go on, what I'll do is I'll collate those and I'll share them with the speakers or with our author, and you'll answer them when we come to the Q&A session. So whatever works for you is fine, but yeah, we'll take questions in writing and then we'll answer them when we get to that portion of the event. The second thing I wanted to cover housekeeping-wise was engagement. We've lined up an incredible session, so please do stay with us until the end. There'll be opportunities to participate. Like I said, we'll have that Q&A, and we welcome participation from the audience. I think the third thing that I wanted to highlight before we get started was social media. We're making this event even more exciting. Favor is going to post in the chat group some of the hashtags that we would like to use. We'd love for you to share your favorite moments, quotes, or insights from this book launch on social media, Instagram, Twitter, Threads, whatever it is that the cool kids are using today. Use the hashtags Scaling for Success, Empowering SMEs, African SMEs, and Book Launch. And what you could win is one of 5 free copies of today's featured book, or you could win our gratitude for that promoting the event if you've already got copies of the book. Don't forget to tag the author. Favor is going to post the details in the chat group. Just checking if it's done that. Not yet, but it will soon. And we'll have those details and you can use those hashtags, and we are really looking forward to seeing your posts. So with some of those housekeeping bits covered, let's get started. I want us to do 2 more things and I'll pass this to our keynote speaker. I think it's my great pleasure now to introduce the star of today's event, which is the book that we are here to celebrate. Scaling for Success is a brilliant guide designed to equip African SMEs, so small and medium-sized enterprises, with the tools, strategies, and mindset to scale, thrive, and transform Africa's economy. Deji, who I will introduce later, begins with a bold assertion. African SMEs must embrace growth or risk stagnation in an ever-evolving business world. He illustrates this with compelling examples of nations whose prosperity have been shaped by thriving SMEs, and that sets the stage for the central theme of the book, which is the power of a growth-oriented mindset. The book is not just a collection of ideas, it's a practical playbook, and DG offers actionable strategies for building high-performing teams, navigating complex markets, and one of my favorite parts of it is actually talking about implementing effective corporate governance. It's grounded in real-world insights, it's rich with actual case studies, and later today we will hear from some of those entrepreneurs who are profiled in the book. In my opinion, it's more than a book. It's a guide, a roadmap to unlocking potential and shaping a brighter future for African SMEs and for the African continent as a whole. Now that we've introduced the stuff, the events, which really is the book, I wanted to then set the stage for some deeper insights and perspectives on the themes of the book. To do that, I'm really honored to welcome somebody who has played a very pivotal role in the African agribusiness space and who also embodies the spirit of scaling for success. Our keynote speaker, Mezo Muneli, is the managing partner of Sahel Capital Agribusiness Managers, a firm that invests in food and agribusiness enterprises across sub-Saharan Africa. He has decades of experience from a variety of roles at JP Morgan, Ocean and Oil Holdings, and AFIG funds. And I think what that helps him do really well is blend a global perspective with a deep commitment to African enterprise. His impacts extend beyond investments. He co-founded and chairs a thriving food manufacturing company, Ace Foods. He also co-founded and chairs Sahel Consulting, an agriculture-focused management consulting firm. Mezo earned an MBA from Harvard Business School, and he was recognized with the prestigious Alumni Achievement Award in 2021. Ladies and gentlemen, from Toronto to Nasarawa, please join me in welcoming Mr. Muneli to share his keynote address, which will set the tone for the conversations that we'll have today. Welcome, Mezo.
Thank you, Koye, and I am extremely honored to be here and to speak about Deji Adebusoye's book, Scaling for Success, Empowering African SMEs. I've known Deji for a decade. I was counting the years and I was like amazed, this decade where he's been a friend and colleague. And what I especially note about Deji is that he's a devoted husband and father and very anchored in his faith. Of course, he's my partner at Sahel, but even foremost beyond that, he's a devoted father, husband, anchored in faith. He has worked across the continent, building and engaging companies, and is very passionate about this. I mean, he's very passionate at doing this, and so I wasn't surprised when he came out with his book, and then I went through that journey to write this book. Wasn't surprised at all. Now, this book is very critical in the dynamics many SMEs and businesses face. And in my own career, as I've engaged with SMEs in the African ecosystem, what has become very clear is the strong desire many entrepreneurs and family-owned businesses have for support and partnerships that enable them scale. No entrepreneur, no business owner wakes up and says, my vision is to be a small company. Nobody does that. Everybody wants to build and scale the company of their dreams, whatever that may be. But not everyone has, that guide or, has an idea where to start, who they can go to, who they can trust, they should to actually build and how to build and scale their business. And for those entrepreneurs in the room, you know that building a business is tough work. It's not easy. It's quite tough to build and scale and grow. And those challenges don't get easier as you grow; they actually get tougher. So it's a continuous process to see, how do you continue to learn and grow as as you're scaling. Now, I think Deji's vision with this book is based on all the different things he's seen, is how can he provide a guide to entrepreneurs and business owners that can be a useful framework for them as they're thinking of scaling and growing their business. And in going through the book, there are a number of key themes and insights that I believe are quite important. I think the first is, just to recognize that SMEs in any part of the world, but especially in Africa, are the backbone of many economies. But at the same time, you do not have multi-generational businesses. You have businesses that tend to grow and unfortunately die with their founders and don't necessarily go to their 100th or 200th year as you see in some parts of the world. And this is a constraint in many countries because to truly for countries to truly have the engine of economic growth, not only do you need to support businesses, but you need to enable those SMEs to scale. And definitely you want these SMEs to be multi-generational, creating wealth and scaling through the years. Now, in the book, Deji touches on his journey, engaging with different SMEs. He touches on stories of some of the founders and entrepreneurs he's engaged with. And in terms of growth for many of these businesses, the things he touches on, for example, are, what it takes to scale. I mean, being clear on your vision, your business plan. And there are many business owners that start a business with an initial idea, but then it's very critical to figure out how do you then put in place. I mean, the business plan is a document, but ultimately it's the thought process of what it takes to put the different building blocks together to grow your business, which is very important. And that thought process comes not just from your inspiration, your ideas, but also engaging with others in the ecosystem to take lessons from what they've done, to craft your plan, and then ultimately to execute. I think also what's important that Deji also touches on is the importance of continuous learning. And not just because none of us knows what it takes to build a business on day one. You actually learn by doing and engaging. But the environment also changes. Dynamics change. And you need to then figure out how do you learn, adapt, respond. And not only as a business owner, do you need to be continuously thinking through and applying, but you also need to enable your team to also go through that process. So your team is also learning and growing with you along that journey, because no man or woman is an island. You can't do it by yourself. You need that entire team to execute. Of course, as a business owner, you need to be present. You can't run your company being remote. You can't be in Canada and say you have a business in Lagos, or you can't be in Lagos and say the company you manage is in Nasarawa. You need to be there. You need to be present. You need to be engaging with your team. Very critical for long-term success. And what Deji also touches on as well is the importance of numbers and really just understanding your business metrics. Is your business profitable? I think maybe many people just think about that, but beyond that, how you think about cash flow, your working capital cycle, what capital is needed for growth, and not everybody on day one knows this very well. It's very important, even if it's not your area of expertise, is how do you surround yourself with the people that can give you the right insights, advice, guidance as you're thinking through these different issues around your numbers and how do you scale, what capital do you require, etc. One of my favorite sections in the book is about weaponizing your team. And I like that choice of words, weaponizing, because it's you're going to battle competition, battle against the day-to-day challenges that's an entrepreneur you deal with. And it just comes down to everything is about team. And if I think about all the companies we've engaged with over the years, where we've had the most success is when that team has been stellar. Of course, integrity, governance, but where the team has been stellar and they've just really executed, and it just made, as investors, our lives much easier. And of course, where the team has been, good but not as great, it's definitely been clear that there's been a harder time implementing. So team is critical. And this is not just the person leading or the entrepreneur or the founder leading. It's in my view, and I think Deji alludes to it as well, you have to wrap yourself with people who are better and stronger than you as you're building your company. Because if you're the best person in your company, then you're completely constrained with your own skills and limitations. And what you want to do with your team or your board is how do you bring perspectives, insights, strengths that you as a founder entrepreneur may not have, such that you can then build and grow even more successfully than if you try to do it yourself. And then in the book, there are a number of case studies of companies that Deji has worked with, just to give some insights. And and ultimately, I think where we can learn is not just from the great stories, and there are many great stories out there, and she includes a few in the book, but also the not so great stories. Because in the not so great stories and the not so great experiences, I think that's where, as a entrepreneur or business owner, you really learn your lesson. And I remember many years ago, and this is probably in 2011 or 2012 when my wife and I had started Ace Foods. And there was a situation and we had lost some money from a business perspective from that engagement. And in hindsight, it was not a lot of money. But I remember indeed going to speak with one of her mentors, and the mentor, very successful businesswoman, and the woman said, "How much did you lose?" And then laughed and said, "You haven't started yet until you've lost some more money, because that's when you really learn those painful lessons that help you actually scale." And if I think through the past 10 years, some of the most painful business experiences, um, going through them have not been fun at all, but spending time reflecting about what happened, why did this investment go bad, why didn't we execute here as well, and really reflecting has given incredible insights that has allowed us to grow and scale in a more effective fashion. And I think those learning things can be the building blocks. So for those entrepreneurs and business owners in the room, I think it's just very important to be attentive, not to case studies of success, but case studies of learning experiences. Because, and it's important that when you go through those challenges, it's not just a pain point, but you really just reflect and then say, what can I learn from this? As painful as it is, to modify what I do and then moving forward. And I think that's sort of an incredible thought process, an important one to make. Deji also talks about raising capital. And I think this is an important section from many different perspectives, because first of all, not every naira or dollar or euro is the same. So it's not just about, let me just raise money, but it's about who are you raising that money from? Because when you raise capital and an individual becomes an investor in your company, it's a marriage. And you want to make sure that the same way you pick a life partner is the same way you pick an equity partner that comes into your business, because the person is there, the expectations, there's going to be tough times, great times, and you want somebody that can navigate that with you. So picking a partner that you're going to, assuming you're looking to raise equity, is very critical. And I think they did some of that thought process. Now, beyond the partner itself, of course, how do you raise the money? What money is appropriate? There's grant, there's debt, the different types of debt, the different types of equity. And just being aware of the different things that are important and also expected from your investors are critical. And I think from a selfish perspective, I think I also want to point out this section because it also makes our lives easier as investors if we're engaging companies and they understand how investors think, because you want a partner that fully understands the engagements, and if they're and you want transparency. So if everybody says, well, I can't live up to the expectations, I don't want to comply with this guidelines, and great, that's we don't need a partner, we can be friends, we can see ourselves in the ecosystem. But it's important that if you do take capital from either a debt provider like a bank or a private credit firm or an equity provider, that you understand the obligations, expectations that come with that, which are very important. Now, from a relevance perspective, as we should think about this book, the world is competitive, and it's becoming even more competitive as borders further break down. There are many different trends, and artificial intelligence is one example today, but there'll be even more in the years ahead. And if you're thinking of long-term success and multi-generational growth of businesses, it's very important to really think through what is essential, what do I need to do to grow and to scale. And this book is a perfect guide to that discussion and thought process as you think through the different issues. Now, as I wrap up, I would like to encourage you to go buy a copy and read. And beyond that, to also work to build the next generation of global African enterprises, either as an entrepreneur and founder, as an investor, as part of the team that is working within the companies. Because if I think ahead, the incredible place for all of us to be is to look around and then see multi-generational African enterprises that have built and are competing in the global stage. And if that is what I see 5, 10, 15 years from now, I'll be very excited and feel fulfilled that I've contributed my little quota to that initiative. And then Deji's book as well has been a guide to everyone as they've gone through that journey. Thank you very much and look forward to the rest of the session.
Thank you very much, Mazo. That was really great. I wanted to thank you for taking the time to share with us. There were many insightful things that you shared. If I had to highlight a few, I think one that I felt personally was you can't be in Canada or in the UK in my case and say that you're running a business in Lagos. I really did feel that one personally. But there were a few other really important points you touched on. You talked about the importance of scaling, the importance of multi-generational businesses. It's something I think about a lot myself. Like there's many businesses that I buy services from here who are third, fourth, fifth generation businesses. And I think that that's something that we need to be able to crack back home as well. And you also did touch on the importance of continuous learning, which I think is a really nice segue into the point about this book, because many people that this book are targeted at will have a lot of experience running businesses already. They will have studied, maybe some of us will have MBAs and such, but continuous learning, making sure that you are constantly looking for how do I get better at my craft? How do I get better at running this business? I think that's really important. Thank you again. And as we reflect on those powerful insights, it's time for my very first sales call. Come and buy what we are selling. I think that this is a fantastic book, but people actually have to read it or the insights don't get out into the wider world. And I think that for people on here today, that means two practical next steps. If you haven't already bought the book, you have two options to buy it today, depending on where you are, maybe three, and I'll walk you through those three. If you are in the West, so Toronto, Calgary, London, etc., go on Amazon right now or immediately after. Actually, right now, pick up your phone, go on Amazon right now and type in Scaling for Success or type in Deji Adebusoye. I'm very proud of the fact that if you go in the UK and you type in Scaling for Success, this will be the highest ranked search result on Amazon. Canada people have a lot of work to do because right now it's the third highest search result in Canada. So we do need to get that to #1 before the weekend is up. And one more thing that I really want you to do is, do us a favor and leave a public review once you've got the book. Reviews are very powerful on Amazon. They help with search rankings. They help with getting it to other customers that are searching for similar books. And ultimately, this is not just about like getting the lot of visibility. It's more about getting these powerful ideas into the wider world. If you are in Nigeria, Rovenites is your bestie if you're looking for the book. And I think what I'll do is after I bring Deji up, I'll also just paste a couple of, I think you can email info@adedejiadebusoye.com. You can also go on the website and there's links there in case this is all too much to remember. So I'll send them in the chat next time that I get a chance to. So that was sales calls one. I think the second thing I wanted to do is also invite people to partner with Deji to get this guide into the hands of deserving entrepreneurs across the continent. So if you'd like to sponsor any number of books for distribution to entrepreneurs, to people that are starting or building or scaling SMEs, please send me a direct message, contact Deji directly, or email info@adedejiadebusoye.com. To kick things off, I'll sponsor 10 copies myself, and I really hope that many more people decide to join me before the event is up. If you don't want me to keep talking about this during the breaks, start messaging me now and volunteering to sponsor copies. Lastly, before we move on to the next segment, just a reminder, share your favorite moments and thoughts from the event using the hashtag Scaling for Success, Empowering SMEs, African SMEs, and book launch. I'll also put those into the chat now. I see a few people getting involved. We'll give away 5 free copies of the book. But again, if that's not enough of an incentive, help us get these ideas out into the world and share those on social media. The next part of today's event is I'm going to bring up Deji to speak about some of the motivations behind the book, and he'll speak about some of the key messages with some of with panelists, including a few people that are actually used as case studies in the book. But before that, I wanted to take a moment to introduce him briefly. I've had the privilege to introduce him a few times, and it's something I really genuinely enjoy doing. I think Deji is not just the author that we are here today to celebrate his book. He's a leader with deep expertise in helping businesses grow and making a real difference. He's a partner at Sahel Capital, and I probably touched on that briefly. I think Mezo mentioned elements of that. A private investment firm focused on food and agriculture in sub-Saharan Africa. He leads the SAFER Fund. I really like that name, but it stands for Social Enterprise Fund for Agriculture in Africa. And it's an impact-first fund that invests in agribusinesses benefiting smallholder farmers across several African countries. His career is one that I find personally very inspiring. It's marked by what I think of as a history of leadership and innovation. He's held senior roles at Syngenta, where I remember that he came back to Nigeria to launch Syngenta Nigeria and then moved back to a global role in Switzerland. Before that, at Procter & Gamble, he worked across Europe, the Middle East, and Africa, building systems that had a lasting impact. Mezo mentioned knowing him for a decade. Well, I have known him for more than half my life. I first met him in Ife, where he graduated with the first class degree in chemical engineering. And after that, he earned an MBA from INSEAD, which was something I thought was incredibly inspiring. And Mezo also touched on this. I'm going to touch on it again for emphasis. Beyond his professional and academic achievements, Deji is a man of many dimensions. When he's not empowering SMEs or shaping industries or writing a book, I find him to be a dedicated and loving husband and father. And in fact, that is another area where I think he needs to write another book once he recovers from writing this one. Before I bring him up, just a quick reminder, as he starts to speak, remember to send questions directly to me or via chat. And with that said, ladies and gentlemen, to discuss his motivation for the book and later to discuss some of the themes with some of the panelists from today, please welcome with me Adedeji Adebusoye.
Great, thank you very much. Can you hear me very well?
Yes.
All right, brilliant. Also, let me say a very big thanks to everyone who has joined today. I think it's a pleasure to have you. It's a very early morning session, so having you all join. I know some people are joining from as far as Toronto, Canada, US, 2 a.m., 3 a.m. I really appreciate you all. Yeah, say a big thanks to you. Also, I'd like to say a big thanks to Mezo, who agreed to give the keynote address for this session. Like Mezo said, I've known him for many years, even longer than I started working at Sahel. And of all the business executives that I think I look up to, I think Mezo ranks, at the very top of that. So I really appreciate him for making our time to give the keynote address today. So what I'm supposed to share with you is my motivation for writing the book. And the journey started many years ago when my family moved to the UK, and I was just walking down the streets in Nottingham where we used to live, and I saw a pastry shop, and on that pastry shop there was this signage that said that celebrating 75 years anniversary, and I was actually awestruck because it was not something I was very familiar with, and it resonated with the fact that the salon where we used to cut our hair, myself and my son, I recall that the person who used to cut my hair told us that that salon had been around for 60 years. The father started, passed it on to his son. The son, who was more interested in selling and dealing cars, was not actively involved in that business, but you can see it was well run, with people that were working there and managing that business. It was just a small salon, but it had been around for 60 years. And, that just cast my mind back to Africa, to Nigeria, to home, and I was asking myself, how many companies can actually boast of being multi-generational? How many companies can boast of that strength of growth, rising out of the different challenges and being able to stay the test of time? And that now coupled with, that had always been at the back of my mind. What can we do to help African companies perform differently? Now, from my own personal experience, over the last 8 years consciously now, I've been actively working to help to build SMEs. First, I started in an operational capacity where I was on the board of L&Z, and we're going to be hearing from MD Abubakar very shortly as well, and Koschari's farm. And I'm also very grateful to see Dr. Oke also present on the call. So I worked with them on the board, but more than that, I was a strategic partner also to these firms, and I actually saw all the pains that they went through in terms of scaling those businesses from very small companies to multi-million-dollar companies. And those experiences, coupled with the thought that I've always had on how can we help African SMEs, I think they came together in October 2021 when I was leading a session. There's a group of young men in church then that I used to lead, and we're having a session called Personal finance, and it was one of my friends and also a partner at Sahel, Olumide Lawson, who was leading that session. He wrote a book called My Money Toolbox, and I told him to come speak to them about how to manage their personal finances. And as he was speaking that day, it just all of a sudden occurred to me that it seems that there is a meeting point here between my experience and the things I was saying and my concern, the problem that I was seeing that I was hoping could be solved. And they all came together at that point, and I decided, look, let me put this together in a book. That very night, I started drafting the content of the book, and it was while I was drafting out the content of the book that I realized that, look, it looks like there is a lot to actually talk about when it comes to scaling SMEs. Because really, I've seen a lot. From an investing point of view, I've seen every shape and shade of SMEs, entrepreneurs that are looking to scale, that are looking to raise capital, and I've engaged with many of them also. Some of them I'm happy to see also on this call today. Now, from the content of the book, my personal belief is that there are a few things that many SMEs need to do differently that will get them on the right track. If you speak to a lot of SMEs today, they will tell you that their major problem is capital, that capital is the major source of their problem. If they get enough capital, they will change the world. While I do not doubt the fact that capital is critical, to the success of any enterprise. In fact, I believe that beyond a particular stage, you cannot scale if you don't access capital. I also believe that raising capital is completely out of the control of the SME or the entrepreneur. What is within your control and you can focus on that even makes you highly competitive to be able to access those capital is what I talked about in the book. What can you do differently? What tweaks can you make within your own control that will change the course of things for your business? Now, in the book, the first thing I started talking about, and Mezo alluded to it, is the power of a growth mindset. I've realized that everything starts and stops on the ability to unlock your mindset to say, I want to grow. Anybody that already feels like my business is sufficient for me the way it is, I just want to keep it as it is, then the reality is that you can never scale that business. It's already dead on arrival. I typically use the story of, if you have two women who are selling roasted corn on the side of the street, and you come back in 10 years' time to find this woman, you'll probably find the first woman still there selling the corn, but she's done very well. She's probably been able to send her works to school, put clothes on their back, make a decent living. She's worked hard, which I think is laudable. There's dignity in labor. But there's also that other woman after 10 years where you probably find that she has expanded her locations to 9 other locations. She now has 10 locations. She's not only selling roasted corn, she has added maybe drinks to it. She has probably opened a viewing center where people are coming to watch football games, Premiership, La Liga, and the others. And she's employing people, she's creating jobs, she's creating a vibrant economy, not just for herself, but for others as well. And that is the shift that I'm looking to see many African SMEs make. How do I move from just saying, this is okay for me, I can take care of myself, mine, to I can create a lasting enterprise, I can create an institution, I can create jobs, I can be part of driving economic transformation in Africa. That comes from the power of unlocking your mind to say, we need to move things to the next level. And I believe that is where things start from. The second chapter goes into talking about numbers. And so many entrepreneurs, and I'm sure many that are listening to me will agree, so many entrepreneurs are scared of numbers. They just want to run their business, sell whatever they are selling, look at their bank account, how much came in, how much is going out. That is all they are happy with. And at the end of the day, that is not sufficient. In fact, it is grossly insufficient. You have no idea whether you are profitable or you are not. You have no idea whether you're on the path to liquidation when your business actually runs out of cash, just by saying that I'm okay with just seeing my bank statement. And what I typically tell entrepreneurs is that you don't need to be an accountant. You don't need to become extremely savvy in all the numbers. There are just a few things that if you understand those numbers in your business and you understand the trend where they are supposed to be moving to, it puts you in a good place to have a good conversation with your accountants, with your CFO, your finance managers, and the others. It puts you in a very good position to be able to have those kind of fruitful conversations that helps you to unlock growth and put you on the path of scaling. So it's extremely critical that you pay attention to your numbers and you learn what it is. And I put some of those things that you can learn and pay attention to in the book. The third part of the book, which like Mezo said, and I think about 3 or 4 that people have also mentioned to me is their favorite part of the book, is on weaponizing the team. And I use that word very carefully because you really can weaponize your team. A lot of people complain so much about the inability of their team to be able to deliver for them. And I usually tell people that, look, if your team is grossly lacking and they can't deliver and they are not motivated enough to continue, there's more a reflection on you as an entrepreneur than on them. What are you doing differently? How are you creating an enabling environment for your team to thrive? In fact, your role, your first job as an entrepreneur is to be a chief people's manager. Because at the end of the day, the reason why it's called a company in the first place is because you gathered people to come around to help you to solve a problem. Now decide to go at the problem yourself. You think you can solve it yourself. The company will only scale to the point in which you alone can do. You can do those things. But if you want to scale a company, you need to be able to pull together, motivate, incentivize the right team, to be able to put in the energy, the time, the commitment to bring the ownership into the business and be able to scale it on your behalf. So that chapter, I think, is particularly in very insightful for anybody who wants to understand what can I do to change the dynamics of my team. You might think that, look, I don't have enough money to hire the best people. I think MD Abubakar will probably be, when we get to the panel, when we started with and said, we didn't have the brightest and the smartest of all the old world, there. The company is in Kano, so we had to pull in people. But at the end of the day, we're able to turn around those people into the level of ownership and passion they had to grow and drive that business. And it can be done. And you don't need to be paying stellar dollars, to achieve that same purpose. The next chapter, which is on corporate governance, is probably one that I've seen. I've hardly met any SME in my investing career that does not have 1 or 2 issues that they have to resolve. And governance is really about accountability. What are you accountable for as an entrepreneur? Are you only accountable to yourself, or you have people that you're accountable to? Are you statutorily compliant with the laws of the land where you are living? Now, let me paint a picture to you. Many entrepreneurs complain that they can't access capital. They come to us as investors and say, we need funds, but we can't raise funds. But the investor is looking at you and saying that of all the obligations that you've had, have you been fully compliant on those obligations? Now, let's start with your suppliers. Are you fully compliant in, paying your suppliers on time? If you're not, then why should an investor trust that you fulfill your obligation to him or her? To your employees, are you paying their salaries? Are you paying them a decent wage? Are you paying remitting their payees? Are you paying their pensions? If you are not fulfilling your obligations to your employees, why should I, as an investor, believe you will fulfill your obligation to me? Or to the tax authorities, to the government? You owe the government your taxes. You are not paying them. You are not remitting them. You have all the good excuses, which I don't fault, right? They are not doing anything for us. But all those are excuses. Now, if you are not fulfilling your obligation to them, why should I believe that you will fulfill your obligation to me? And these are some of the things that many people don't get, why they struggle to raise capital, in the long run. Corporate governance is extremely critical. Who are your board of directors? Who are the people that you are bringing around your business? I remember a story that it was Indidi that shared that story actually, and she mentioned that there was a time when she and Mezo just started Ace Food. There, they were both running the business, and they set up a board of advisors then. And she said that at different points in time, when Mezo is tired and he doesn't want to go again, she has the energy. She said that at some point she's tired and Mezo has the energy and the business continues. But she said there was a particular point in time in the business where they were both tired, and it was like, look, this is a lot. And she said the only reason why the business stood the test of time at that point was because of their board, who helped them to, get through that period. And Ace Food is what it is today. Sahel and all the other companies that they've started, they are what they are today. So corporate governance is extremely critical, even to the sustenance of your business and the sustainability of your business as well. The last chapter, not the last chapter, but the last chapter in terms of some of the things you can do is about raising the right type of capital. I consciously use that word, raising the right type of capital, because truly you can raise the type of capital that is not good for your business, that is not appropriate, either because you are raising too early, or you are raising the wrong type of financing, working capital instead of capex, or you're raising from the wrong person. So many things can go wrong. So in that chapter, I touched on what are some of the things you need to think about. What are some of the hiccups that investors have when they look at your business? Why are they not thinking about investing? How should you approach them? How should you match the right kind of capital to the need of your business? Then, of course, I put together 2 case studies of 2 businesses that have gone through that journey. They've scaled and they've grown over the last decade or more. One is L&Z, which I was a very, very close part of. MD has become more like family with to me. I'm more like a family with him now. We worked closely in building that business, but MD can say that look, there was a lot of sacrifice. Even he had to go through to get the business to where it is today. So I put a case study on what was the company like, what were the decisions they made, what helped them to transition from where they had to where they wanted to be. And so I'm so glad that MD is also here today to be part of the panel. And then I'm also glad that Buke Balogu is also here, the MD and co-founder of So Fresh. So I also showcased So Fresh in the book where we talked about how the decisions they made during the period and how they were able to grow and scale their company. In summary, as I round up, scaling for success is really a deep dive into practical tips and tools that you can use to unlock growth in your business that can help you in your decision making. It's more like a lamppost, give you light, but you still have to make that journey. You still have to make that move. You still have to make the decisions to grow your business and move it to the next scale. Once again, I'd like to say thanks to you all for being a part of this launch today. And I really, my prayer and my hope is that the book will get into the hands of all the entrepreneurs that will really need to see this and unlock the next phase and growth for their businesses. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Deji. You do look like a proud father, and I imagine that having just finished the book, published it, gotten it out into the hands of people, it is something you should be very proud of indeed. I was also going to say that Deji closed with a prayer, and God answers prayers through people. So first of all, I wanted to thank Okwe Fayomi, who has reached out to state that they'll sponsor 10 additional copies of this book into the hands of deserving entrepreneurs. I didn't manage to get permission from them to mention the amount that they sent, so I'm not going to talk about the amount, but yes, Okwe is going to sponsor 10 copies, and I would also like to use that as an avenue to remind people to reach out and volunteer to get copies of these books into the hands of entrepreneurs. In addition to that, remember the task, go on Amazon, go on Rovinite, and buy the book. I don't think I mentioned this at the start, but since everyone is talking about their favorite part of the book, I actually really liked the bit on weaponizing teams as well, because whilst I do not run a small or medium business, I think of myself as a corporate entrepreneur who depends a lot on my team, and I found that really useful. And I mentioned that because, even if today you are a corporate entrepreneur running a business segment within a more established business, I still think that there are many parts in this book that you will find useful. Whilst Deji stays on, the next bit is actually to talk about some of the people that whose businesses are used as case studies in this book. So I'm going to introduce the first 2, and then at some point later on, Deji will bring on 2 more people to join the panel. I will start with Olaguke Balogun, whose businesses took a significant portion of my lunch budget when I worked in Ikeja many years ago. I spent what I think of as an ungodly amount of money on parfaits from So Fresh. So I'm really looking forward to reading your case study when I get to that part of the book. But just a brief profile, Goke Balogun is a visionary entrepreneur, celebrated for pioneering Nigeria's leading indigenous healthy food chain, So Fresh. And I confirm, and my belly confirms that the food is really good. He has over a decade of entrepreneurial success. He's grown So Fresh from a pioneering corner shop to a prominent national chain with 12 locations and over 170 employees across 5 states in Nigeria. He's a biochemistry graduate with over 13 years of experience in sales, marketing, biz dev, strategy, and ops management before committing fully to entrepreneurship. He holds a certificate in entrepreneurial management from the Pan Atlantic University and is an alumnus of Stanford University's Graduate School of Business SEED program. He also currently serves as managing partner at Scaling Partners Consulting, where he works with businesses to enhance growth strategies, establish scalable systems, and cultivate dynamic operational capabilities. One of my favorite things about Goke's profile is, like Deji, he also really prioritizes his family and believes in the pivotal role of family in societal development. He's happily married to Abimbola and cherishes time with their 3 children. I think it's important to mention these things because sometimes people think that being a successful entrepreneur means you don't have time to be there for your family. And as we can see, that is clearly not the case. I also wanted to briefly introduce MD Abubakar, who is a seasoned banker with over a decade of experience in development and commercial banking. He is a successful dairy farmer and the president of the Commercial Dairy Ranchers Association of Nigeria, who represent indigenous dairy farmers in Nigeria. He has chaired several boards of federal institutions, pioneered agricultural projects, and contributed to various committees focused on repositioning and refinancing the agricultural sector. Deji talked about L&Z. Both L&Z and SoFresh from Goke Balogun are case studies in the book. He's a part-time lecturer. So back to MD Abubakar, he's a part-time lecturer on agribusiness at the LBS, Lagos Business School, and he sits on its Family Business Initiative Advisory Committee. He holds degrees in glass technology, international affairs and diplomacy, and also has an MBA. I would like to invite MD Abubakar and Olagoke Balogun to please join Deji for the panel discussion. And thank you very much for sharing your experience and expertise with us.
Thank
you very much.
MD,
good morning, all.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Deji.
Yeah, and Goke, thank you also for joining. You've been on a book launch spree of recent, so thank you very much. Good morning.
To be here.
Yeah. First of all, I'd like to say thanks to both of you for allowing me to profile your companies in the book. I think everybody here, in one way or the other, would have either interfaced with your product or interfaced with your brands, and I think I'm pretty sure about that. For those who are not aware, L&Z, you would have seen their yogurts in the stores, in the shops across the country, as well as other value-added dairy products. And SoFresh, I don't think there's any competition to what SoFresh is doing in Nigeria today, in terms of the salads and the fast food products, healthy products as well. But I think the two companies have come through a journey that for many people that look at these companies, they will just think, oh wow, it was an overnight success. But I can tell you that there's nothing called overnight success. There's blood, tears, and sweat that has gone into building and scaling these businesses. And I'd like to start with MD. And MD, if you think about where L&Z the journey L&Z has made up till today, what would you consider as the critical factors that have been very pivotal to your business growth?
Thank you very much, Digi. I think you've captured that in your book already, and just for me to emphasize it, actually the point at which I think we turn around the company and directly indicated that we're going to be successful was when your company came into us and invested as Fafin. Fafin was the fund you managed, and then though they invested in us before you joined the company, but I think some few months or a year when you came, you were at the end of the day the main point man of that investment in our business. So you see, I recall when I was talking to Mezo about the investment that I was not looking at for capital. I even showed him options of capital at cheaper rates that were coming to us. So I agree with you really that capital is very secondary in a business development, particularly in a country like Nigeria where other factors are neglected and focused on capital. So what I told Mezo was I really wanted the business to be on its foot and be on autopilot even after my exit. And that could only happen if you have some certain situations put in place, one of which is a good corporate governance, and that automatically came with your investment. And I recall that was when we have two great independent directors that really helped in shaping the business for us. And then having you and Mezu on board and Olumide helped a lot. So it was that to me was the time that we really started seeing the business as a business. Before then, actually, it was more or less it was a family business. The passion is there, and we needed to take it to the next level. But the vehicle to ride that will take us to that level was Liking until we came on board. So I think that, to me, that was the point. Now, what happened afterwards, I think we'll discuss later. I'm sure you will have that questions for me later. But to answer your question, that was the point at which we believe we turn around the business.
Yeah, no, thanks, MJ. And I think one important thing you mentioned, which came along with us coming on board, is the part of the corporate governance, because I think that helped to put in place more or less like the base for which an institution can be built and grown. And so, for example, instituting the board of directors, making sure that there were regular financials that were, reporting to them. I think all those also form the base of having proper corporate governance, which I think was critical to the growth. So thanks for sharing that insight. I will move on to Goke now. And when I was writing the story of So Fresh, one of the things that came through was I realized that your strategy changed at some point early on in the business because I think something was not working. The question is, many people face this kind of situation. Many people probably hear something is not working in the business, and the question is, were you worried? Were you worried, or concerned at that point when things were not working well for you? And what did you do differently at that point? And how should entrepreneurs manage those kind of situations?
Thank you, JT. And it's my pleasure to be here. And thanks for featuring So Fresh in the book. To answer that question, of course, I was very worried. In fact, my position was that we needed to close down the business because it was about a 3-year mark where I was working, my wife was also working. We were basically funding the business from our savings. And we had done this for about 3 years. We were not seeing results. At that point, I wasn't earning a salary from the business. My wife wasn't earning a salary. And we're basically just, funding the business. And I thought to myself, if I packed all this money, traveled like 1 or 2 times a year, did some other things, it was going to be a better use of the money. So I was very worried, and we actually actively thought about closing down the business. But my wife thought that we should really think about what we had done. So what we did was we took a step back and looked at all we had done in the last 3 years. Thankfully for us, because of my experience, we had a lot of data. We were very heavy on collecting data from, our sales data, our, customer data, buying data, times they came into the store, what they bought, how much they bought. And then we looked at all we had done over the last 3 years and were able to filter out what was working, what was not working. And we realized some very, major things. One of it was we were in the wrong location because we looked at, where our customers came from, what time they bought and all of that. And that made us to, make some certain changes. We also looked at our menu, for example. We looked at what were customers buying. What made up 80% of what drove our sales, our revenue. And okay, can we double down on it? So those are all the things we did. We basically just looked at, our business data, what we're doing, what we're not doing right, what was working. Talk to a few customers as well. So for us, we are very big on leveraging, data, internal data. That means, your internal data, your operational data, what the customers are saying. And because in that 3rd year mark, that was what really helped us pivot the business into what it is today. And so that's something I really encourage, small businesses to do. And it's not about the volume or the technicality of that data. Things are simple as your sales data. I find it strange because I do a bit of consulting now that some SMEs don't know what they sold last month, what they sold 2 months ago, what I even showed yesterday, people don't collect daily sales data. People don't collect daily customer data. How many especially for, I'm talking about retail now. How many customers did you start? How many customers came in and did not buy? Even if you're a service business, you got 15 inquiries, 2 bought last month. When you take all those data over a period of time, you're able to start to form a story or a theory around your business. So for us, that was what really helped us to change the skill, to change the pattern of the business. And when we did that, we changed our location. We moved from where we are. We moved to Ikoyi. We changed our product offering. We changed our messaging. And then, in about 3-4 months, the business, quadrupled. And that was what really brought about, the change in what you now have as So Fresh. In fact, it wasn't So Fresh because it was fruity veggies. But when we looked at everything we had done, we thought this name did not represent what we were doing. It was also a very marketable name. So it was a wholesale change for us, looking at what we had done over the last 3 years.
Thank you very much, Doke. Because I recall when when we were having that conversation before writing the book, that when that strategy change happened, there was a lot of thought process that went into it. There was, you were worried, but then you made certain decisions, together with your wife. And I mean, So Fresh is what it is today. So thank you very much. I think the highlight of that is data is important. You don't need sophisticated tools to collect that data. Just simple information on a day-to-day basis will be very critical to the success of the business. But back to MD. One of the things that I know was quite challenging, MD, was you've always been running your business on your own, yourself and the family, and you've always managed everything. You were reporting to nobody, but all of a sudden there was a board, and the board of directors, you have to be accountable to them. I know one-on-one that there were tough times that you were like, Deji, it's not easy to follow these things that these guys are saying, but you did. So the question is, how will you advise entrepreneurs that are struggling in that stage to be able to adopt this kind of system, and how can they get the best out of it?
Yeah, thank you. It's true. It's always difficult. It's natural resisting changes, even if it's positive. So I think I was only responding to my instinct then. But I think the lesson I learned there, not only me, the corporate governance members, if I will say that, like you, Mezo, and others, have to learn also that when they are bringing about change in an institution, they are bound to be such resistant to changes, and you have to prepare yourself for it and know how to manage such. I remember we had a clash or two with Mezo that sometimes I'll go back and reflect. I will realize that, okay, maybe he didn't even understand that I didn't even know that resistance, what he was saying was really good for the business. I will see it as a personal attack, not because I knew it wasn't a personal attack, but I took it as but because I believed it was a personal attack because I was not prepared, and I have never experienced reporting to a board. So, and I'm sure he didn't put that in sometimes into perspective when dealing with me. He would say, okay, after all, I'm dealing with company A. Probably that company A is used to working with governors, is used to working under good corporate governance. Company B, me, but I am not, for God's sake. I'm just starting. So it took a lot of time before we polish, we smoothen the rough edges. So my advice to entrepreneurs is, once you agree for a structure to be built that will have a level of control on your holding of your own business, I think it's a help. And people should always look at what will motivate you is look at the consequences of you not being around. I always tell people that if tomorrow I am not available anymore, yeah, I will be mourned because I have gone, but I think it will take less than a week before the corporate governance, before the board calls for meeting and decide how do we now continue with the business without MD Abubakar. I think, to me, this is enough motivation for every entrepreneur. Unless if the plan is once you go, then the business goes down with you. And that's not, if that's the case, then you better shared your premises into plot and sell them and make your billions and jet out to go and enjoy the money. So you better kill the business while you're alive than planning it to die with you. So I think that was my motivation. That I really wanted something, a structure to outlive me. So if that's your dream, then it's a motivation. It's motivation enough for you to allow for some kind of structure that you will be reporting and you'll be accountable to certain people.
Yeah. No, thanks, MD. And I'm going to follow that up with a very quick question. I don't think you said, until we came in initially, the business did not take off, but I don't think you give yourself enough credit on some of the things that even attracted us to the business, because there were certain things that you had been doing in the business up until the point in which we felt, look, this is a very interesting business to partner with. And I think that is very important for many entrepreneurs to hear, so that they just don't think that, capital came in. You did certain things with the business up until the point in which we came in that made the business to grow up onto a point, and then you realize that you had to unlock the next level of growth. And I just want you to speak a bit about that part. Lami, Zubaida of Blessed Memories, the things you did together to be able to build the business up onto a point that it became attractive for an investor to come on board.
Yeah, yes, thank you very much. That's what I was talking when you mentioned why I said your comment was because you asked of the turning point. So your comment actually on board was the turning point. But if you had asked me what was the story behind our success before you came in, or what makes L&Z what it is, probably I will have started from how we established the business itself. So it's true, yeah, we saw opportunity actually, because I was traveling a little and I saw fresh milk was always available everywhere, and I now look at it that if I want fresh milk in Nigeria, where can I get it? None. And we have these cows to produce the fresh milk. It's just that the culture of fresh milk intake is not there. So we had our individual 3 businesses that we decided to collapse into one for ease of management, and 3 of us, myself and my 2 wives, decided that okay, we now just all of us come into this business and then see how we can pool our energies together against the individual businesses we were running. So in a nutshell, that's what brought about the L&Z team, family team, to start. So with that opportunity and with this zeal and then with this decision, we started. But when we started, we realized that we have few cows, local, giving very few liters of milk, and it was very clear to us that what we're getting from those cows cannot really even pay one of us the salary we will desire to have. So we continue doing for the first 3 or 5 years. We just decided we were not making money, but the profit we were making was intangible. Asserting ourselves in the system and getting people to know us, and then going shop to shop. Started from Kano, then we extended to Abuja. So to scale up immediately was to look for more milk, and we realized that we have a lot of communities of Fulani herdsmen that have milk and only go to hawk it in town. So we had some collaboration with them. Look, why don't you come down, become sedentary, and then we'll be of taking this milk for you, so you don't need to hawk the milk or go and process it to local. No. We'll give you good money for your products. And at the end of the day, few started agreeing with us, though there were resistance as well. But ultimately, we got a lot of them that agreed to come on board. Today, we are number 1 in offtake of milk in the whole country, and we're just expanding. We've gone beyond Kano. We're in Jigawa, and probably we started talking to Bauchi State to see how we can collaborate to make sure that we support them. What we started as you said before you came, dealing with the communities is what is really attracting even the other state governments to us. So I think that is what we were able to do before you came, and that was the attraction not only to you but to other development partners. We are able to get the itinerant Fulani man to get settled, and we get some kind of support from development partners to provide even water, we were able to understand what was the critical needs of these itinerant smallholder dairy farmers that will make them sedentary. Why are they moving around? So it's essentially feed and water. And once we started providing this with the help of development partners, we realized that it was working, and that is how we were scaling it up until we were able to get to the level we are today. So this is, I think, what I missed, and I hope I have addressed it adequately, Didi.
Brilliant. Thank you very much.
Okay.
That was, I wanted people to get that perspective that yes, capital was critical, but there were things you did, that got the business to a point in which even made it attractive for capital to come in. One other thing that you probably would not say so that you don't toot to your own horn, and I usually tell anybody that cares to listen that MD is probably one of the most highest level of integrity that I have seen since we've been doing businesses. I usually tell people that it's difficult to get MD to say yes, but once he says yes, you can take that word to the bank. He's going to implement what he said he's going to do. And I think for us as investors, that also gave us a lot of confidence, and that played out eventually. When we're planning to exit the business as well. Goke, I would like to come back to you, and actually is to talk a bit about your team dynamics, and maybe at this point, after this question, Nia is also going to join us on the panel. Sorry, Goke, we can't see you anymore.
I switched on my video.
Okay.
I think I was struggling with my network, but let me try it again. If it works, if I'm breaking up, just let me know.
Yeah, no, sure. We'll do that. So I think one of the things you mentioned also in the course of the book was how you were able to make certain decisions about your team that actually helped them to execute very well on your behalf. And I just wanted to talk a little bit about that.
So for me, from day one, I'd always thought about my team as partners, not just as employees. Because I'm not sure if it was the host that mentioned it that there was a time both Mezo and they were tired, and it was the staff that carried them through. And that's how I was always seeing business, that they are partners. They're here to give in their best and do what will lift up the company. So from day one, we are always involved the team in the business, right from making the decision. I started with my wife around about year 5, where we now had about 35 people on the team. We thought that this should not be just about me and Bimbo. So we did something. We brought in the heads of the unit, heads of the department. We recrafted the company's mission, the company's vision, the company's core values together. So that gave them a sense that they were part of this business. They are now part of redefining the new direction for the business. So involving them in decision making, giving them that autonomy to operate. And most importantly for me is helping your team to define what's in it for them for being part of your business. And that talks about development-wise. It could be career-wise, it could be growth-wise, even salary-wise, right? So what's in it for them? Why should they give their time, their effort, their energy to your business? So you must, as an SME, you must really be concerned about, as my business is growing, how do my team members grow alongside? Because when they come to work, they also have dreams, aspirations of their own, and they must be able to fit those dreams and aspirations into whatever they are doing within the business. I remember around year 8 or year 9 when we also got investment and things were starting to ramp up. I called some key members of my team and I told them that now the business is going to a new level. We're going to expand, operations will become different, and we'll all have to equip ourselves. And I told them, you have been a generalist. Now, what do you want to do? I remember, our general manager business services now said she loved supply chain. So said, okay, whatever you do, the business are going to support you 30%. So she took certifications, both local, both international, in supply chain, and the business supported. I gave her time off, also paid about 30% of our registration fee. And we did that for, different people. The person that is our IT manager today, that manages all our IT infrastructure, started as a storekeeper in one of our outlets. He also took advantage of one of those initiatives. So that way, you are not just growing the business, you are helping the team grow. You are likely to get, this is not saying that people will not leave, people will not go on to other things, but you create a culture where people believe that when they join the business, they have joined a team that's not only interested in growing the business, but also helping them grow. And you're likely to get, more passionate, dedicated people, to grow the business. Because the truth is that there's just so much you can do alone. But when you have a group of people that believe are committed to the business, you are likely to go, much, much, much further. And, there have been times that, there are like two of my particular staff, when things really became tough at some point, even though I didn't say it, I thought that they had more belief in the business than me at that point. But I did tell them that I was losing patience, I was losing faith. But they believed so much more in the business than me, and I saw how much they carried on, and that kind of fueled me as well. So I think it's important to really prioritize your team and plan their growth, with the business from day one. And so that's what has, worked for us and continues to work for us. Of course, we've done this. Some staff, have misbehaved. There have been errands. But, one thing I promised myself was that we are not going to change, that part of us based on a few errand staff. Yes, they will come. Yes, they will go. The system will fish them out. But, want to keep the core of, prioritizing our team in growing the business.
Thank you very much, Goke. I think one of the last things you talked about, which was, some people are not performing, and I think I also talked about that in the book. It's one of the softer areas which is always difficult to manage when you have people on your team that, are not performing at the level at which they should. How should you manage such engagements and interactions? And I also covered that in the section on weaponizing your team. So thank you very much. I think at this point, someone is going to be joining us from, that's Nia. Nia, you can unmute yourself, and thank you very much for joining us, Nia. Myself and Nia have known ourselves for, I think it's over 10 years now, right? Somehow, we went to the same school, and we've somehow kept in touch over the years. She's doing excellent work in Africa as well. And I will just do a very quick introduction. So Nia she's the managing director and co-founder of My Trade Capital, which is an investment advisory firm focused on Africa, and she's a co-founder of Rafiki Ventures. So our experience also started off, in investing, private equity. She's done investment bank, worked with firms like Actis, Northland, a couple of investment banks in the UK. She has a master's degree from Cambridge University and an MBA also from INSEAD Business School. So Nia, it's good to have you join this panel. Thank you very much for making our time to be part of it.
Thank you so much, Deji, for having me. And it's an absolute pleasure to be here. And Deji, we've known each other now for going back 12 years, so a very, very long time. And I'm very, very proud of you for writing this book and, hoping that it can create much success for entrepreneurs who want to grow and scale their businesses, not just in Africa, but across the globe. So very proud of you, Deji.
Thank you very much, Nia. And I will get right to focusing on, a question that borders around somebody who has straddled both an investing side of the whole ecosystem, but, you've also built your own business and you are still building your own business. So you are both building, but you're also investing in a lot of companies. You've invested in large corporates, you're investing in SMEs, and so you have that breadth of perspective. In your experience, what would you say, how do you think entrepreneurs should navigate getting access to capital? And what are some of the mistakes that you see that they make, that makes it difficult and challenging for them to access capital, even though they are small?
Yeah, I think access to capital, whenever entrepreneurs are wanting to grow, the first thing they think about is, let me get external capital. I would say the first thing entrepreneurs should do, especially businesses that are in Africa, is see, is your business ready to accept that capital? Do you really need it? Can you bootstrap your business using your own internal cash flows to the stage where it can grow to a stage where you are able to accept capital? And then once you've reached that threshold where you're like, okay, I'm now ready to accept new capital for growth, entrepreneurs need to know is what is the right type of capital to bring on board. Is it debt or is it equity? And if it is debt, what kind of debt is appropriate? Am I looking at banks? Am I going to, private equity investors like Sahel for debt? And if it is equity, again, looking at, which all capital is not equal. This is also something you mentioned in your book, Deji. Is this the right investor for me? Are we aligned in our growth plans? Are we aligned? Does the chemistry match? Because entrepreneurs are going to be walking the same journey with yourselves for a number of years. So are you aligned? Is this the right, like I say, the chemistry that you're going to be together with for the next 5 to 7 years? So access to capital, one thing entrepreneurs should know is what is the right form and when is the right time. And then once they decide whether it's debt or equity, knowing is this the right partner I want? Often entrepreneurs will be in a situation where maybe they don't have the choice. They don't have the luxury of choice of picking between debt partners, picking between the right equity partners. In that scenario, what do we do? And this is the reality for us in Africa. We often don't have a choice. And then it becomes tricky. It becomes very tricky. Who do you go with? And I would always then say you then go back to the drawing board and you see if it's a debt investor and they're giving you very shark-like terms. Is this the right investor for your business? Can you tweak your business to maybe take on, maybe not even take on that debt, maybe continue to bootstrap as you then pursue other conversations with debt investors? Or could you take on board an equity investor who is more aligned and not giving you those shark-like terms? It might mean that you're giving up equity, which a lot of founders don't want to do, but maybe in return, you're getting back a lot of potential for growth and even succession. So balancing is often key. And also then getting, entrepreneurs can't do it all. You're growing your business, you're growing your teams, you're talking to customers, you're talking to suppliers, you're managing your employees, you're maintaining your relationships with government. You may even consider bringing on board an advisor to help you navigate this. Often what you probably end up paying an advisor is I would say baked in to the capital that you bring in on a success basis. So the risk can be quite mitigated if you are successful in bringing on board capital, the right kind of capital to fit your business. Then you can reward your advisor on the same. So it's a win-win situation. DJ, I don't know if that was enough.
That was very helpful, Mia. Thank you very much. Indeed, I think a lot of the things you've talked about in terms of being able to get access to capital, I think one of the things I also picked out is capital is not the first point, right? Or raising external capital is not the first point. First of all, look within yourself. And I think it also comes back to what you have control over. Look within yourself. Can you bootstrap? Can you, are there parts of your business that you can dial down on and push one forward to be able to, drive better cash flow? There are just some decisions that can be made, and external capital is not always the first point of call. And then, doing those things also brings you on that journey to be able to get the right access to the right kind of capital, like you said. So thank you very much, Nia. I'm going to ask one question just because of time, and I want everybody, MD, Nia and Goke, I would like to answer that question. Then I've received some questions already, which I'll also put to you to help answer. But first of all, before we welcome questions from the audience, what is one piece of advice you wish you had received when you started your business? I don't know who wants to go first, because I know that's a question that a lot of people will, even I want to hear as well. So what is one piece of advice you wish you had received when you started your business?
I think let me go first. There's so many pieces of advice I wish I had received when I took on this journey. I think the one that stands out to me is entrepreneurship is a journey. It's not a sprint. It's a marathon. It is going to challenge you in ways that you had not imagined, and resilience is key. They say businesses are not built overnight, they're built on blood, sweat, and tears, and that is very much true. Not everybody is cut out to be an entrepreneur. In today's world, it's quite sexy. I'm an entrepreneur, I'm a founder, I'm a co-founder. Saying those names gives you, swag material, but it is very, very hard. It's actually it's you have to roll up your sleeves, you have to deal with all kinds of problems. You need to be a good problem solver. You also need to be good with communication, and you also need to be good with people. So I think, yeah, the most salient advice that somebody could have given me before I started was, this is not a sprint. It's a marathon. Yeah, and be ready for it. Be ready for the ups. Be ready for the downs, and just stay the course. Be resilient.
Thank you, Nia.
All right, I'll go next. So this question, I think like Nia said, it changes almost, every now and then, because as you progress in business, you discover more and more. So sometimes I even think maybe the best advice would have been don't start. However, now that I've started, right, I think one of the biggest advice, I would have liked to receive is, I think the area of, numbers and finances, right? Because they are what ultimately defines your business. If you don't have a very, very strong hang of, you can make all the revenues, you can, push all the sales, have the greatest of products and all of that. But you need to really have a strong handle on your numbers, your finances from day one. And I would say that, for me, I would say I was pretty, good at it. But I wish that, I knew much more, when I started. So that's a number one advice I give to entrepreneurs or, fellow SMEs, is that your numbers are basically the lifeblood of your business, and you need to know it inside out, because ultimately that's what your business boils down to. And if you don't have a very good hang of, all your numbers, how money is coming in, how it's going out, you might just really run into a lot of strong headwinds going forward.
Thank you, Goki. MD.
Okay, yeah, I was muted by the system. That's a tough one. I was just that's why I decided to speak last, because I thought they would give me a clue. I think the question that the advice that I really missed was, the separation of the business from yourself, separating the pocket of the business and your own personal pocket. That's one advice that I will have really, I will have loved to have had, and deeply too. Then the other one is, even though you said your business is a family business, so and you take all members of your team as your family members. You can decide to be a father, but it's not necessary that the team members will decide to be like sons and daughters to you. A typical example that I saw later was there are some staff that I knew clearly their competence was highly questionable. But being the father, the only thing I thought I would do is I don't want to throw them away, but to now make them grow. And like a father in African setting, you don't pamper your child when you want him to grow. You have to put stick. You have to the extent that. But in African setting, the child knows that you don't hate him, you're just trying to hit him to make sure he becomes a better person. But I realize that that is missing in an African setting, in an African business setting. When you really try to get somebody to grow and try to make him competent, and then you are now hitting him the way you are, an African father hits his son, he doesn't take you as a father. He thinks you're an enemy. And the best thing is for him to start treating you as such. So I think I learned this the hard way. And I would have loved to have an advice like this, that, okay, treat your business like a family, but please don't treat them like your children.
Thank you very much. As in, I think very very key very critical points, and I hope that everyone that is here is you're taking notes on, some of these thoughts on what needs to happen in terms of setting up your advices when you're starting your business, some things to keep at the back of your mind. We have a couple of questions, but because of time, I think I will only be able to touch on a few of them. The first question says, and I will read it out, and I will direct this question to Goke. She says, I live in Canada and I run a business in Nigeria doing solid turnover per month. Since leaving Nigeria, my staff have been moving mad, diverting businesses, taking clients with them, and one person even created a fake OPay account with a similar name to the business. Mezu talked about long-distance entrepreneurship, and Koye said he felt it personally. How do you balance wanting to have a foothold outside Nigeria for various reasons with being present and running your business on the ground?
So I stand with what Mezo had said. I've never done it. I'm in Nigeria. I know people that are doing it these days. I mean, based on the situation, I've consulted a few. I don't think it's the most efficient way. Running business on its own is tough. It's an active engagement. Especially in Nigeria, there's so many other cultural dimensions that makes it more difficult to run business, long distance. I don't know how to do it because I've not done it, but I understand the reason why people are doing it. And I think that the best mode is still for you to be around 100% and run your business, or you find a trustworthy, competent, person to run it. And that's another different conversation. However, since you decided to run it, the best you can do is to, so I didn't exactly get the nature of the business, but you want to institute, controls into your business, how products are made, what's your quality control, how products are sold, how do you monitor that, inventory, financial control. So you have to be very, very heavy on control. The other thing you can do is to get, an external auditor to audit different areas of your business. Even for me that I am in Nigeria, every of my stock gets audited once a week, both quality audits and financial audits across the entire country once a week. So that's what you want to do. What is your method for auditing your processes, your sales, your expenses and all of that? So it's really to find a way to get a hang of what's going on, at every point in your business. I must tell you that it's very difficult, but I think you can maybe find a way to minimize the impact of the disruptions. That looks like a very specific question. You can reach out to me on my Instagram page at gkbalooks_, and then you can just chat a bit more on that.
No, thank you for agreeing also to probably follow up with I know the person, so thanks for agreeing to follow up with her on to provide more context. The second question, this will go to MD. We've talked about multi-generational businesses. What if the children are not interested?
Yeah, so this is the reality. It has happened with a lot of businesses, and ours will not be different, certainly. So that's we go back to the corporate governance structure that you have in place. The children can only join even if they want to, based on their competence. So if you want to join the business, you are not competent, you can't join it. So you want to join it, you have to do so. You have to demonstrate through some hard work. So I don't think that is a problem. The business continues, and then if you decide to retire at MD, you can hire an MD to run the business for you, and then the children remain shareholders. So only the competent ones, if they are running their business elsewhere and they have come of age, they want to join the board, they can join at the level of board. But to work as in the management or in the system, you must work towards it and you must be competent enough. So it's not that somebody is begging the children, oh, no, because by virtue of you being my child, please come and join them. No. You have to go and train, and you have to be competent for you to even join. So no serious entrepreneur that he wants his business to outlive him, that will just bring a recalcitrant child to take over the business just because you've given birth to him. So in as much as you will want them to, because they are your children, you want that generational continuity, but it can only happen if they're interested in it. If they are not, so be it.
And I agree with you, MD. The children don't have to be interested. If they are, it's beautiful. But even if they are, there's a level of competence they have to achieve, right? To be able to
Certainly.
take mantle. You just don't bring them and say, become the MD because you're my
child. No, certainly.
And I think one thing companies need to, entrepreneurs need to recognize is that even if their children are not interested, that's not the end of the company. Procter & Gamble started many, many years ago. The people running Procter, in fact, the people that scaled Procter & Gamble to where it was today, they are not children of the founder. They are independent managers that I hired to build and grow that business. The same thing with most of the multinationals and businesses you've seen across the globe. My last question will go to Nia from the audience as well. And how have you dealt with issues such as staffs who are not committed to your business? Yes, sorry, I need to.
Yes, it's often a very tricky subject. One of the first things we do to mitigate it from that is we have a very stringent recruitment process, and in the recruitment process, just to start, my business is it is all about people. It's a people business, so when we're doing our recruitment, we're not just looking for technical skills. We're also doing a personality match. We're also doing a values match, which I think is even more important than the technical skills. So, are your values aligned with the company? Is there a culture fit with the other people? Often what we do is beyond the interviews, it's going and meeting people personally, taking them out for lunch, meeting the rest of the team. Do they gel well? Are they a team player? It's not foolproof, but it often means that you get less of those people who are not committed. Now, often once after you've recruited them and they've been in the business, say 1 year, 1.5 years, 2 years, you do see sometimes performance dropping. And what we have in place is every year or multiple times during the year, we have check-ins, and there are 360 feedback sessions. And we also have goals that both the individual wants to achieve, personal goals, career goals, and also what the company goals are. Is there a place where the staff needs improvement? Are they excelling in one place? So we have these performance check-ins quite frequently during the year. So when they're not performing, they're given advice on how to perform. Where they're excelling, maybe they can also train the rest of the team. And then when it comes to, yes, they really are not performing and it is the end of the road, then it is somehow, managing this in a gentle manner, and perhaps parting ways is the best way. I think for us, because people is our main asset, we take this extremely seriously, and fortunately, we haven't had to go down that route. But where you're running larger businesses, you often don't have the owners are not involved or so involved with their staff. It does become a bit more difficult, and that's where HR teams really come into play. But my core belief is that, at the end of the day, we're people, and all of these matters should be managed in a humane manner, in a very human manner. Yeah, we've seen during the last VC crisis how people were firing over emails. I personally just don't believe in that. I think it leaves a lot of sour and bad blood, which as entrepreneurs, you just never know. There is always a relationship. If it starts today and it ends, it may continue down the line. So when it comes to these tough decisions we all have to make, do it in as humane a way as possible.
Yeah, thank you very much. I think at this point, I would like to say a big thanks to my panelists, MD Abubakar, Goke Balogun, and Niasha. Thank you so much for joining me on this panel, and good to see you again, and we'll be in touch. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Deji. So when we are buying more books, we'll get in touch with you directly, right?
Yes, you can get in touch.
Okay. Just to make my pledge, I'm buying plenty.
Thank you very much, MD.
Okay, thank you. Yeah.
I'm very glad to hear that. We're getting close to the end of the event. Thank you so much for staying with us so far. We've only got a few more things to go, but I encourage you to stay until the end because we are pretty close. I'll just echo Deji's words. Thank you very much to MD, Goke, and Neha for sharing your insights with us so freely. I also really appreciate Goke saying that the questioner could reach out to him directly. That is really nice and very much appreciated. I think it's been a really insightful session. And it's not every day that you are able to peek behind the scenes at some of these businesses that have become household names and that are doing big things in Nigeria and across the continent. Quick thanks to Fumi Oyelakin, who reached out to me to state that she will sponsor 5 copies, which is really nice. Thank you very much. Between Okwe and Fumi, that's an extra 15 copies plus my turn. So we've got 25 copies sponsored for delivery to entrepreneurs across Nigeria and Africa. Thank you. Also, thanks to Funke Okuobi on Instagram, and again to Okwe Fayomi on LinkedIn for your social media engagement. Thank you for helping us spread the word. To everyone else who's on the call, remember that there are many ways to do this. Like if you don't use Twitter, like I don't anymore, you can share on social media, other social media. So there's Facebook, there's LinkedIn, there's still Instagram, using the event hashtags. I think I just wanted to repeat what I said at the start. It is very important to leave reviews on Amazon. And if you don't buy on Amazon, maybe because you live in Nigeria, also in Africa, you can also post a review to your own Facebook or your own Instagram, and that helps more people find the book. Thanks to the audience members who sent us questions, and special thanks to the Canada team. Even though it is really early, I was just having a quick look at real-time sales data on Amazon, and I saw that 2 people in Canada have placed orders today, and it's not even 4 or 5 o'clock in many parts of Canada yet. So thank you. I'm going to call out people in the UK because we are still sitting pretty at 0 UK orders today. So if you think that the event so far has been like visiting a bakery and smelling the aroma of freshly baked goods, then you need to buy the book so that you can actually eat the bread. And unlike cake, where if you eat it, it finishes, when you buy a book, the bread never runs out. So you can eat your bread and have it. At this point, before I give this back to Deji, I'm going to give you 30 seconds of uncomfortable silence to pick up your phone or your laptop and go on Amazon or go on Rovenites and place an order if you have not already. 30 seconds of uncomfortable silence. Just sit and marinate and buy the book. And I will check. Okay, 30 seconds is actually very long, so let's pause it there. I'm going to pass the mic back to you, Deji, for your final thoughts on the book, and then following closely after, in the interests of time, I will ask Ayofe and Ini to immediately go after you with a vote of thanks.
Yeah, no, thank you very much. And once again, I'd like to say a big thanks to everyone for joining this session. I apologize, we've shot a bit above time, but it's been a real delight. The journey for the book took me 3 years to get to this point because of the different busy things that life throws at you. But I'm grateful that the book is now available for many entrepreneurs, investors, entrepreneurs, government officials, investors, to get a hand on copy, and let us, do everything we can together to support and enable SMEs in Africa to scale and to grow. So at this point, I'd like to welcome Ini to do the vote of thanks.
Yeah. Thank you very much for listening and hopefully enjoying this book launch. We appreciate all of you taking some of your time to be a part of this. I hope my father is as proud of himself as I am with him, although we all know it was mostly me that helped him write the book. I think we should now all give my father a round of applause. I know the settings of this meeting do not allow that, but if you can show your congratulations by giving a text or clapping in your homes, then that would be great. Good job, Dad, for successfully launching your book, Scaling for Success, Empowering African SMEs.
Thank you very much, Ini.
Thank you, Ini. That was incredible. And I hope you saw me cheesing because that was really nice comments. To wrap up, thank you all for giving us nearly 2 hours of your time on a Saturday morning and for waking up really early for people in North America. There were a few more things I wanted to mention that I haven't so far. I think this is an ongoing conversation with Deji. So there's the book that you've got in hand with what's already in the book, but there's also a website with a newsletter and additional articles that it will publish over the coming years. So I would also really like to encourage you to pick up your phones or computers, go onto www.adedejiadebusoye.com and sign up to the newsletter and follow Deji so that you can get more of his thoughts. If you already signed up for this event via the pre-registration links, we will auto-enroll you into the newsletter as well. If you don't like it, please let me know. That wasn't Deji, that was me. And we will also make sure that you can get his thoughts as you go forward. Again, final reminder. Oh, sorry. Before I go to final reminder, thank you very much, Olu Adebusoye. I've just had a message from Olu Adebusoye saying that they will also support with 10 copies. So I will reach out to everyone who has reached out about supporting after the event so that we actually get, we figure out how to do that. And finally, just a reminder of how to actually get the book. Outside Nigeria, go on Amazon. In Nigeria, go on Robin Heights. If you are in Kenya, Ghana, also in Africa, where there's no Robin Heights and no Amazon yet, we are coming. Email info@adedejiadebusoye.com and we'll find a way to get you the book wherever you are in Africa, even if it costs us more to ship the book than it costs to buy the book. Thank you all for your time and attention. And Deji, if there's no final words, or are there any final words from you? No? No final words. Thank you all for your time and attention and enjoy the rest of your weekend.
Thank you.